Hey, everybody!
Welcome to our 2 cents
This is my job, John.
podcast.
Love how I threw you off. Welcome to our 2 cents, a Reegle Shenanigans podcast. Not even Reegle Shenanigans anymore.
Just
Reegle. Just Reegle. Yep. I am John Reese, and I'm today joined by Jarus Eagle.
Liar! I'm John Reese.
You're John Reese. So, I like how successful, even in the smallest success, how episode 1 was. This is episode 2, and I'm glad that we can come back for this.
Yeah.
Grand ordeal. And
Yeah.
John was so ecstatic with happiness from not just our success, that he wanted to sing us a song.
I did. But then I didn't prepare.
You didn't prepare?
So
that's a darn shame. Well, it's funny because me and John both have a song that we're going to both sing at the same time on the count of 3.
At the count of 3.
And it's a song that we wrote together.
Okay. No, we're not.
We
don't have a song.
You don't want to do this? You don't want to make up the song on the spot?
No, it's just the intro. It would have been better if it was like, we're so good at songs that we're going to make one up right now, but...
Hey, we're so good at songs, we're going to make up one right now.
All right, here we go. Ready?
On the
1, 2, 3.
We're all we're happy.
And we love to
the
sing.
Podcast, and singing on the podcast.
Because we're cool.
And this is the podcast. Yes, and now we're going to move on to our first topic. After the proclamation of faith.
Yeah, so we...
That was the worst.
That was pretty bad. We're not going to be going anywhere.
We're going on tour this summer.
This summer.
Reegle music.
We're not. But before we get started, we just want to proclaim that we are believers in Jesus Christ. We love the Lord, and we hope that through our podcast, through our videos, that we display the characters of Christ with honesty and love. At the end of the day, God, we're in love with God, and we think He's awesome, and we want to serve Him. And I hope that you get to see that love and that grace that God has for humanity, through our character and how we choose to live life. So if this offends you in any way, you can always not listen. That's is America.
Pretty much your only option there.
Yeah, this is America. You're free to not agree with me, but I'm not going to change the fact that I'm in love with the Lord, and I firmly believe in Him, and neither is Jarus. So, yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and get going on to the first topic.
And you have all the topics this week, almost.
I
Like, John did all the research and came to me today. He's like, okay, we're going to do the podcast at lunch today. And this is what we're talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we recorded the podcast.
For 30 seconds.
About 30 seconds we recorded the podcast. Okay, it works. So then we recorded just like a test thing. And then we started up. We went through the entire podcast.
Yep.
Like it had to have been at like 45 minutes.
Something like that.
And we pick up my phone, which is what we record the podcast with. And nice and big on the screen it says, phone overheated. Please wait for it to cool down to use anything. So sometime during recording the podcast, we lost everything, and we were just talking to ourselves.
Yeah. It was a good conversation. It was a good warm-up.
We had a great...
Get it? Because the phone overheated.
Good warm-up. Ha! Woo! So, that happened, and so here we are now, 6 hours later.
When we got off work.
And now we're in John's office, and we are now recording the podcast in a nice cool room, because it was extremely hot in that truck.
It's true. We're right below a vent. So
and it feels so much better than a hot truck. Because we couldn't turn the air on because it would be flowing and be extremely loud on the mic.
This is true. We sacrificed for you guys, and then it was a sacrifice in vain.
So,
All right, but we're
So
going good.
before that first topic, John, why don't you go to the comments and see what the people have to say this week?
Oh yeah. Well,
From last week's podcast, we asked for input from our viewers. That's you. And what does the input say from the viewers?
well, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw out there that it says nothing. There are none.
This is not like a hostile jab, but a sincere jab that we would legitimately like to have your feedback on stuff.
Yeah, input is nice.
Just input on how we're doing things. If you don't like the way we're doing something, if you think that we should do something a little bit differently, we would love to hear from that. And if you're sitting there thinking, man, this is great, but this could be better, tell us what we could do better. If you have a point to put into any of the topics that we talk about this week or last week, really, we can go back on any topics, really, during the podcast. And I feel like we could do that before we get into our other topics, that we could go from previous stuff, and we'd love to have input and just, what's the word I'm looking for? Just activity from y'all and input and just involvement from our fans. We'd love to see that.
I would love to have that interaction. The only downside of not doing a live stream is that we don't have people listening actively, and we don't have people calling in or leaving comments. So that's the only downside. But we get to make those up with people leaving comments and thoughts of what they think of the actual podcast, and we can, respond, or we can bring it up in our next episode.
Well, you said that we can't do this live. We can do this live, but we don't have enough feedback saying that we can do this live yet.
That's true. I mean, we're not at the point where it would be successful live.
So, if you'd like to have this live,
leave a comment below.
So I guess on to the first topic.
Yeah, so on to the first topic, which is an interesting topic. So the USA swim team.
Yes.
For the Olympics, which is this summer.
In where, John?
Rio de Janeiro, which is in Brazil, the country Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Which is supposed to be the first South American country to ever host the Olympic Games.
All right.
So, first time.
But to clarify, the Summer Olympics.
The Summer Olympics. Yes.
This year,
2016 Summer Olympics
in
Rio de Janeiro.
Did you know that the Olympics happens on an election year every year?
Yeah, because they're both every 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
I know.
Anyways,
penny facts.
Another fun fact about Rio de Janeiro is it's also where the Zeka virus started. Was in not necessarily Rio de Janeiro, but it started in Brazil.
Right.
And it started going all across South America and the Caribbean, and now it's making its way up into the United States, and which brings us to the U.S. swim team. Because the Zeka virus is in Puerto Rico, they're not going to be hosting their training camp in Puerto Rico. They're moving it to Atlanta, to Georgia Tech, and doing their training there before they go to Rio.
And just to kind of just so people can read more up about this, we'll put a link in the comments about the article that we are referring to.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be an article. I think it's from USA Today is where I got it from this morning, where I was reading about it. I actually, the first time I heard about it was a couple of days ago on talk radio. So there's several references to it, I think, in different news feeds and things like that. But they're moving the training for the U.S. swim team away from a place that has confirmed Zika virus, but they're not moving the Olympic Games from Rio.
Just the U.S. training.
Just the U.S. training for the swim team a couple of weeks before the Games.
And that's going to be in Atlanta.
Yes, the training's in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, the Olympic swimming pool that's at the university.
Right.
And so I guess the question that we're posing is, do you think that the Olympic Games should be moved from Brazil, since it also has the Zika virus, That's where it started, and it's steadily stayed there since it started.
Right. And now the Zika virus, as you informed me earlier today, it's not really that dangerous towards the people who contract it. They get sick and they get over it, correct?
Mostly, they are starting to link it to another disease for adults. I don't think they have a lot of evidence for that, but it has been confirmed that it directly will affect a birth defect in pregnant women. If they have babies, the babies could get this birth defect that I will never be able to pronounce the name. I've tried, but I can't get it. But it makes their skull soft and kind of cave in or flex around, and it affects their brain, and it basically makes them mentally challenged because it damages their brain.
So very serious.
Very serious. And so my wife was going to go to Guatemala, but since she's pregnant, basically the organization she was going with was not comfortable with her going, simply because
of the Zika virus.
Zika virus that was there.
So the question you asked was, should we move
The Olympic Games.
entirely to another location from Rio because of the Zika virus?
Because of the Zika virus. Because, think about it, not only will you have the teams from every single country in the world competing in all the different events, you'll also have the fans that are flocking to Rio as well.
Correct.
And so, yeah, the Brazilian government will make some revenue, but at the same time, not only are they increasing the chances of people getting sick, they're also increasing the chances of the Zika virus spreading to other countries.
Right. But you also informed me that this is Brazil's winter time?
Yes, so they're thinking that because it's the winter time in Brazil, that the mosquito population, which mosquitoes are the ones that carry the Zika virus, they're thinking that mosquito population will be low enough to be able to be contained, and they'll be able to take other safety precautions to make sure that people aren't getting sick and they aren't getting infected. So that's the reason they're continuing on with the games, is they think that they'll be able to control it.
Okay. Well, I feel like that if they really, sorry for the pause, really just push some safety rules, try to really just stamp out this virus the best they can, which obviously it's very difficult if it's, mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But if they really just slam down on this and possibly make a lot of the events indoor arenas, I feel like it might be possible to keep it safe. Because this is a very very honorable thing for Rio. This is very profitable for them.
Yeah, it's an honor for a country to be able to be a host of the games. Because if you think about it, how long the Olympic Games have been around.
Yes.
It's been a very long tradition that countries are continually incorporating into their lives all the time. But I'm on the fence. I really am on the fence because I want the Olympic Games to happen, and I want it to happen in Brazil because it's awesome for South America, for Brazil, for the people of Brazil. But at the same time, I don't want this virus to spread, just because I think about how many pregnant women there are. I think about how many adults there are traveling to Rio and then traveling back to their countries, and I just don't know what the dangers will be.
Yeah.
So it's hard to foresee what will happen.
Like I said, if they really are cautious about it, possibly, but
it's a possibility. Yeah, like I said, they've got some good things going for them, but really, at the end of the day, we won't know until it happens. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, which sucks. But
yeah.
Oh well. If you have any thoughts on this, do you think the games should be moved to another location, or do you think that they should continue on with Brazil as the location for the 2016 Summer Olympic Games?
You know what?
Rio?
It's fine. Just get rid of Rio. Get them out of there and just bring it. You know what? You know who deserves it? Us. Bring
Us.
it to bring it back.
Bring it back to Atlanta.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. No,
It's been
20.
longer. It's
20.
been 20
Sorry,
years,
20.
Yeah.
The
1996.
and then the 2016. There you go. Bring it full
Perfect
circle.
time. But we also had a bomb threat at our Olympics.
I was there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, you.
I was there. I was 6 years old, and I was there when the bomb threat happened. But we were in a different location area when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the whole ordeal happened while I was there, and it by the time it was over, that was about the time the word got to us in our group that there was a bomb threat at all.
Yeah.
So
It's not a big deal.
yeah, bomb threats not a big deal. Good, whatever.
This is America. We're not afraid of bombs.
We are the ones who dropped the bombs.
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
All right. So, yeah, leave comments below on what you think. Next thing is actually a pretty interesting article that I found on newsy.com this morning. And it's basically they're looking to incorporate virtual reality crime scenes into the courtroom for jurors.
So they are going to make a 3D model of a crime scene
For the case, yeah.
for the case, and then for the jury to use the Oculus Rift.
Which I didn't get to yet, but yes,
No,
they're
sorry.
using the Oculus Rift virtual reality goggles in the courtroom.
To present the evidence in a new manner.
Mm-hmm. To present it in a way that makes it alive, relatable, like you're really there. Because you don't have the Rift, you have the...
I have the Oculus Rift, but it's the DK2, which is the developer kit 2.
Okay.
So it's the Oculus Rift consumer version come out about a month ago, if I was guessing correctly.
Somewhere along those lines.
About a month ago. It's retailed at $600.
Yep.
And it is nowhere near... My DK2 is nowhere near the quality of the Oculus... Graphics-wise of the Oculus Rift.
Yep.
And when you're using it, there's certain points that you forget that you're wearing something and that you feel like you're in another place.
Yeah, on yours.
On mine, mine that quality is way lower than the consumer version.
Yeah. So I think that it's pretty interesting. I think that it'll actually improve. Given I have not really been in court, let alone as a juror. I went to do jury duty, but they didn't want me, so they sent me home. So I've never been a jury.
I've been blessed and never been called for jury duty. So
Good. Well, but I think according to the article, the only concern that legal professionals have is incrementing more technology into the courtroom, is what they said. They already use DVD players, they already use TVs to present crime scenes and present evidence. But they think that, it might be a little bit of an overreach. I don't know how to really explain it. They just think it's too much and it's unnecessary.
Now with DVDs and TVs, I feel like it's fine.
It's okay, but like we were talking earlier, it won't drastically attack. I hate to say attack, but attack your emotional side as much as you virtually being there.
And that's what they want. The prosecutor or defendant, whatever, they really want to have you there.
If just from what I know, which is very novice, I know next to nothing about the courtroom,
but you have been watching Daredevil.
I have been watching Daredevil. No, which is pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
We can.
Let's not get a little off topic.
But the lawyers, they want to be as graphic as possible to not only snag your attention, but to hit at your core, at your morality.
Right.
To convince you to their side.
Now, I feel like this could be useful, but it also has a great possibility of just being a little too far. Like I said, using the Oculus, you forget where you're at. So if you drop somebody into the middle of a murder scene,
yeah,
I feel like if not handled properly, it would be a little too much. And also at the risk of tampering evidence almost, because somebody has to recreate that
If
scene.
someone manipulated the scene, yes, it could be an issue. But as far as, fear of the jurors and how they'll handle it, I don't think that that's a concern, because it does. Yes, it'll make it more real, but the graphic detail isn't going to change. It's just the presentation of it.
But there's a difference between looking at a photograph. There is a gap, a distance between the person and a photograph versus being there.
And you see, I think that that's good. I think that it's good to get them in there so that it really does. It really hits at their morality, because looking at a photograph, you can justify all the reasons you can separate yourself from it. You can be like, wow, that's terrible. But at the end of the day, it's just look at all the movies and photographs that are out there today, and how graphic they are, how violent they are, how gruesome they are, and how untouched we are by them. Because there's a divide, and we see a lot of it.
I feel like, yes, there is a bit of a disconnect from it, because you are sitting there and you have it in your mind, this is a video game. I'm playing Call of Duty, and I'm, headshot, whatever, shot somebody in the head. It's just a game.
Exactly. There's a divide. But if you're in the Oculus 3D version...
Right, and I think this is where we both agree on it, but where we diverge at the same time, that you say it would make it better, and I'm saying it would make it worse.
Yeah. I guess that's where we're at the standstill right now. So who do you think is right on this? Do you think Jarus is right, or do you think Johnny is right? Do you think that this could be detrimental to the courtroom, or do you think that it could improve the courtroom and the ability of the jurors to make a decision? Leave your comments below. We want that feedback.
Please give us some feedback. Please, no.
So
we're begging you.
You can't tell, but we're sitting down, asking politely.
Very nicely.
Please.
In a very calm manner.
Yeah.
Please!
So, moving on to our next topic, which is just a straight up silly goose.
Oh, yes.
Just
And we talked about this. We're going to make a bit of a segment out of this, too.
Yeah.
So, Shia Labeouf.
Shia Labeouf!
Actual cannibal Shia Labeouf.
Actual cannibal.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that video.
We'll put a link of it.
Which is interesting to the fact that he's in it too. Like it's a straight up shot.
It started as a cartoon that he wasn't in, and then the one you're talking about, he makes a cameo in it.
Gotcha.
So like they redid it in a grander fashion, and he was actually in it. So.
Okay.
So, anyways, back on topic with Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf likes to consider himself an artist. And I'm sure he's done more of his, in quotation, art projects. But there are the one where he sits in a room dressed up with a paper bag over his head.
Which is ridiculous.
On the paper bag it says, "I'm not famous anymore." And he allowed people to come in and just shout at Shia LaBeouf. Just do whatever in the room, and Shia LaBeouf has to sit there and watch with a paper bag over his head. That was, I believe, the first one he started doing. After that, he did... I can't remember which one came first, but he did the one where he sat in a movie theater with, a full packed house of movie theater and watched all his movies through with his fans. In quotation, fan. No, I'm kidding. And then he did the project where he stood in front of the green screen and reenacted scripts that students laid out for him. And that's where you see the meme, "Just do it," come from.
Yeah.
Make your dreams come true. That's where that came from. And then now, Shia LaBeouf's most recent art project. Shia LaBeouf is now hitchhiking across America, and he's tweeting out his GPS location, and he wants people to come pick him up and just take him wherever.
Yep.
And this is labeled an art project.
Right now, it looks like he's somewhere headed towards Arkansas, maybe?
Towards Arkansas?
Yeah.
So, me and Johnny discussed this. I don't want him to, but I feel like Shia Labeouf's going to get murdered.
That is a chance.
Like, somebody's going to kidnap him.
For all people who do hitchhiking.
There's a great danger in hitchhiking.
Yes.
If you're just a nobody. No, let me rephrase. Not a nobody, but
anybody.
Just a anybody person. But this is an actor who is considered a little deranged at this point in his career.
Yeah.
So I feel like somebody crazy person is going to probably
But
pick
at the
him
same
up.
time, it seems that Shia LaBeouf is a crazy person.
So do you think that he'll harm somebody in this process?
I don't know if it's that he would harm some, or that just that personification of insanity, or on the road to insanity, would steer off those who would seek to do harm. Those who are just deranged to get a crack out of it, because you risk the chance of him enjoying whatever's going on. Insanity is chaos in human form.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So, but now we're getting too deep into it. The
so
ridiculousness is it's Shia LaBeouf
hitchhiking.
using Twitter to hitchhike.
Yes. So, me and John discussed it. We're going to have a segment at the end of each podcast until he's done doing it to check in with Shia LaBeouf and see what he's doing. Do you want to take bets on how long? Not just
a gentleman's wager.
A gentleman's wager of how long he'll last.
I'm gonna go with at least all summer.
All summer.
Yeah.
So by the end of
August.
I believe that he will make it by the end of. He'll not necessarily be murdered, but just stop by the end of June.
Really?
Yes. A month. I'm giving him a month from today.
Okay.
So
I looked at his map and how far he's actually traveled so far.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't traveled that far.
Okay. So this is Shia Watch 2016. Shia Watch. So we will check in on Shia next week.
Yep. Yes, we will.
So that leads into our last segment of the podcast.
Yep. Last segment, the question segment.
So if you didn't listen on to last week's podcast, please pause this video and look up podcast episode number 1, link in the description. And last week, me and John decided that at the end of each podcast episode, one of us would ask the other a question, not knowing the question going into it. And we decided that this week, I would ask John the question.
Yep.
Now, a little disclaimer, like we said before, we lost the podcast that we recorded. The first recording. So John does know the question going into it.
Yeah.
This week, we won't be doing this going into it.
We won't make that mistake again.
So, I asked John, as a kid, you have an expectation of what you want to be.
I would say a desire.
A desire, okay. You have a desire of what you want to be when you're older. Mm-hmm. So, some people desire to be a police officer, a firefighter, an astronaut, a princess, childish desires. So, you have a vision of what you would be at a certain age.
Yeah.
So, my question was, do you think that your 10-year-old self, if he were able to look to the future and see you now as a 24-year-old, would he be proud of what you've become?
I don't know if he'd be proud, because I'm not exactly anything far out there. I since I was little, have been a dreamer. And I dream, and I have crazy, great ideas. Well, I don't know if they're great, but I have crazy ideas. And so there's no telling what I was thinking at 10. No telling. I honestly couldn't tell you. But I don't know if they would be proud of who I am now. I now am proud of who I am. I'm happy with my life, and the way I'm living. And I would say when you were asking the question, it actually was making me think. Those desires that I had, I don't know if it's this way for every single person, but when I had them, I saw something that looked awesome or looked cool or something I really wanted. But as I grew and I had learned more about it, I was turned off from the idea. And I kept on learning more about different things that sounded cool to do. And it was either, it grew within me that I wanted to do it more, or I dropped it altogether because it wasn't what I thought it was to begin with.
Okay.
And so I would say, would my 10-year-old self looking into the future be proud of who I am now? Maybe not. But how about my 12-year-old self? Maybe a little bit more.
So as you grow closer to that, as that gap is bridged more and more, you feel like you would have been more happy with yourself.
Yes, because of the knowledge that you gain over time, the understanding, the know-how of different dreams and aspirations, the closer and closer you get to who you are now. And, I'm still dreaming of the future,
Do you think 24 years into the future, do you think yourself now would be proud of your 48-year-old self?
I honestly...
That's something to ask you in 24 years.
Yeah, you're going to have to ask me in 24 years. We'll have to make a time capsule or something. Put a reminder on your phone.
Yeah, because I'm going to have my iPhone 28 years from now.
24 years.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said 28.
Sorry. If I did, I apologize.
Oh. Well.
So, what do you, the viewer and the listener, think? Do you think whatever you were at age, unless you are 10, you can't really answer this question.
Maybe if you're 10 and a half.
10 and a half. Yeah. So do you think that your 10-year-old self will be proud of what you've become?
I guess we'll find out when you leave your comments below.
Hey, John.
Hey, Jarus.
There's this nifty new thing that I've discovered.
What's that?
I believe it's called commenting.
Commenting. Where can I do that, Jarus?
Funny that you would ask that, John. I believe that you can comment below.
Below the video?
The video that the person, the viewer, that's you, viewer, is watching right now. I believe that if you scroll down a tad, there is a section that you can comment.
That is fantastic. I'm going to take this newfound knowledge and apply it into my immediate life right now.
Right this second.
Right now.
Wow.
Okay, well.
And with that, this is the end of the Our 2 Cents episode 2. Dose.
Sakis. What?
Sake?
No.
Well, I don't drink alcohol, sorry.
All right. Well.
So, I believe I ended the episode last time. I think John expressed his desire to do something funny and end the episode. So all pressure's on you now, buddy.
That was my screeching whale saying goodbye. And see you next week.
All right. That was our 2 cents.
Bye.
Bye.